Thanks for joining us again. Hopefully everybody had a good coffee break. Now you get to cool off in this wonderfully chilly, bright room. So I'm joined on stage by three of this year's streaming media award winners. I've got Olga Kornienko from EZDRM. I've got Barry Owens from Wowza. And I've got Bruno, is it Giener or Giener? Giener. Bruno Giener, sorry, from Nice People at Work, or NPAW. We're going to go through a variety of topics with these thought leaders from the industry. But first, I want to start off a little bit and just hear about your companies and what you won awards for. So, Olga, I'm going to pass to you first.
Thank you. I do agree. Oh my God, this is bright.
And cold.
And cold. And obviously not geared for women in the room because we're doubly cold, right? But hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Olga Kornienko. I'm the COO and co-founder of EZDRM. We're a hosted, managed security content protection as a service company. And we've been in business since 2003. And I swear I'm not that old. But we won our award for best and most loved content protection service for our DRM solution, universal DRM.
I must have an error in mind because it just says DRM content protection, not most loved. Oh, okay.
It was everybody voted, right?
That's fair.
So I would say most
Okay.
loved.
All right.
I think it applies to everybody.
Apologies. I understand. Barry?
Hey, Barry Owen. I am currently the Chief Solutions Architect at Wowza. Been there about 13 years. Wowza's been around a long, long time. Kind of one of the original, kind of all-encompassing media servers. And it's really, we're streaming infrastructure. We're kind of under the hood in a lot of other platforms. And, Streaming Engine is built to be this incredibly customizable, expandable, kind of all-purpose media processing engine, and people have built it into just an incredible array of products through the years, and it's nice to be recognized as something that is super reliable and just gets the job done.
It's sort of a Swiss Army knife for the industry.
We've banned that term internally, though.
If you haven't done a project with Wowza at some point, it'll end up happening because it fits in just about everywhere. Bruno?
Bruno, well, at NPAW we have been doing data intelligence for 15 years, almost. We started as an OVP, as a video platform. And at that time, we realized that, well, we don't have very much insights, so we don't have data to work with. So we developed the platform as an internal tool, this 15 years ago. And then we developed data products to support each and every department of a video business. Nowadays, we have like 4 main verticals, but from monitoring, QoE, content delivery, to digital experience intelligence. That is the vertical that I'm responsible for. Focusing on understanding the whole QoE, QoS part, and also the engagement part, audience personalization, customers experience orchestration, and tying up all those data points that we have.
Bruno, I'm going to stick with you for a second because I feel like data has come up as a topic just generally at the show repeatedly, both metadata and data in the production pipeline, but obviously the viewing habits are very much a data-driven piece. One of the things I sort of wanted to ask you was, what is the conversation with your customers about data like now versus what they were even sort of 5 to 10 years ago?
That's a very good one. So 10 years ago, we were like, can we track this? Can we track that? Can I know how many of these do I have? Can I know how many of that? And that lived for a while, so that was turning into analytics, and then insights. Can I understand data from visual insights and so on? But right now it's all about what can I do with this data? Why things are happening like that? Why I'm not achieving this business KPI that I have? Why I'm not growing as much as I should? Why do I have so much churn? So right now the questions are much more on the understanding and how to act on the data. And now the AI stuff, and
So
I
more
mean,
business intelligence across the board.
yeah, but I know. I mean, for me, and I've been working with big data for I don't know 20 years or more, and right now it's the right time that we are really seeing a perspective that we are really using data and being data driven, but because of the influence of AI. So being capable of generating better metadata, processing better the KPIs and generating insights and so on, and using AI models to automate the actions and so on. So for me, it's a very exciting moment, to be honest.
Very good, thank you. Olga, I want to jump over to you and ask around sort of from the content perspective, protection perspective, what are the changes you've seen, or at least a shift in recent sort of behavior in the industry that sort of that EZDRM has noticed and is adapting to?
Well, there's a couple of different things going on, and one of them is the fact that the conversation around securing rights, protecting revenue, and just trying to figure out where revenue leakage and content leakage is happening has become a lot more mainstream. And if 5-10 years ago, the conversation was more around, hey, DRM is an expense, we don't know why we need to do this. Wait, we do because the studios require us, but we don't want to because it's an expense. That used to be the case. Now, especially maybe driven by sports rights and how valuable sports rights are, we're seeing a lot more conversation of we need to figure out how content is being used, where it's being stolen, how do we protect it? Because at the end of the day, content is king, and revenue, and we need to monetize everything that we can, including, if anybody's doing betting or anything, even that content is currently being protected because leakage happens everywhere. But a lot more conversations and a lot more honest conversations about we need to stop revenue leakage and content leakage and how do we protect our content.
Got it. Thank you very much. Barry, as we shift to you, obviously M&E is a big part of what you do, but it's far from the only thing that Wowza is involved in. So I guess what is Wowza's perspective on not just the M&E space, but where media is being leveraged and what has changed over sort of the past few years?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously media and entertainment is the big glamorous category, and it's driven a ton of innovation, right? So it's been great. And I think there's two things. You're starting to see kind of the democratization of some of that technology so that many other people can stream for many other things, right? So even to the point of doing more complex workflows, like you have houses of worship streaming, doing ad insertion workflows, right? And it's, that would unheard of 5 years ago, let alone were they able to stream in the first place. And then I think, my personal opinion is you're going to see a ton of growth outside of media entertainment, right? So kind of edge cases, tier 2 amateur club sports, which are media entertainment, but kind of ignored by the biggest players. And I think there's a ton of growth there. We have a customer that runs live streams 18 hours a day out of something around 10,000 hockey rinks for youth and amateur sports. They're huge opportunities. They're kind of inverted. It's many, many, many sources they have to deal with, very few viewers of each source. And then you take that into some of the next big categories, which, broadly lump into security and surveillance, but all these monitoring workflows. It's like 90% of that video is never seen by a human.
Right.
So what are the innovations we can look forward to make those workflows more efficient? And, maybe it's leveraging things, AI, some edge workflows and things like that to enable those people and those feeds that need to be noticed at the time to bubble up to someone and they can make a decision.
And I would think in those scenarios where media is becoming a critical part of their workflow, it's not like they have dozens of team members standing around figuring out how to solve it. So they really need you to figure out how to operationalize it for them.
Yeah, so making things easier to deploy, making easier to string together components doesn't necessarily mean they're all going to flock to SaaS and use a managed offering. Sometimes that just doesn't work for economics or otherwise. So it's up to us to make sure that they can create, big complex systems very easily with things like, advanced Docker containers and scripting. And I think that's where you'll start to see AI flow in as well with some of these agent-based workflows where, instead of having to figure out how to create this big origin edge network, I just find an agent that says, hey, I'm going to have 10,000 input sources and I'm going to need, to be able to handle all those and transcode things and make those streams available for output and go.
Yeah, absolutely. Bruno, coming back to you, I wanted to ask about some of the bottlenecks that you're seeing out of customers today. Like, what are the problems they're asking you to help go solve in sort of the modern workflows?
We have been discussing that in some panels. There's one limitation that we get, that it's this collaboration between players. So data sharing, so how we can get access to data and democratize data amongst all the content providers and the platform owners and everyone in the chain. So it's one of the challenges that we are trying to support and so on, but usually we get some blockers. And the other thing, for sure, it's this unification of the understanding of the experience. Like, I know how many times people are coming to my platform and how many times they are watching content, how many times they're having errors, how many campaigns they're receiving, how many ads they're clicking on and so on. But can we unify so we can understand the experience from a single point? So it's one of the main challenges that we're...
I would imagine there's also data they're bringing outside of what you're necessarily creating or aggregating for them already that suddenly becomes part of the workflow because they realize that there's other and important pieces of data that they just happen to have that they need to bring in because that suddenly rationalizes or changes the equation for what you can provide.
One thing is that we right now it's super fine. So to bring in data and build those insights and build this unification is fine. But one of the challenges is really getting the data to be used to impact the business. On that, we have some things like, I don't know, integrations with marketing and how we communicate and so on, and personalization on that area. Personalization on content recommendations and so on. In one hand, all the customer relationship management. So we have like big operators that have like customer care departments that receive calls from the users and so on, and needs to use the data as well. So all that action on the data is one of the challenges that we try to support as well. But usually we need to collaborate a lot. We tend to be as agnostic as possible, but we need to collaborate with partners and in a way democratize the connections and so on to make sure that the data that we generate will be used and will generate real business outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Olga, if we think about sort of emerging technology that we're discussing, there's obviously been a lot of things we've talked about here and at other shows recently, but what is the one that you think people are underestimating right now and need to pay more attention to?
I somehow turned into the C2PA person and the spokesperson for C2PA. So for anybody who might have missed the panel yesterday, there's a technology out there right now called C2PA, or Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity is the name of the actual organization that we've been members of for about 3-4 years now, that talks about authenticity and provenance of content. And to kind of dismiss all the myths out there, it doesn't tell you that what you're looking at is actually true or not. It just talks about the fact that this piece of content was published by a very specific person and whether or not it has been changed after the fact. So if you believe that the earth is flat, nobody's going to try to convince you that it's not. You can produce videos about it as long as you don't pretend to be Bill Nye the Science Guy. But the idea behind all of everything that this pretty large organization is trying to do is to kind of have people look at this piece of content and say, yeah, I know what this is, I can trace provenance of it, and I know that since I like what Andy has to say on the topic of AI, and this is a video that's been posted by Andy, I know that nobody has added words to it or taken out words, and I can truly believe what this content is actually telling me.
Very good. Yeah, I obviously worked a lot with C2PA in my time at Microsoft. Microsoft was one of the founding original partners, along with Adobe and BBC, for the organization. And I think it is one that is super important, but because it takes sort of industry adoption, it is coming together very slowly. But I have seen it sort of continue to mature over the last several years.
Well, we were actually, my CMO who left already, but he was here yesterday saying that a lot of people asked him about C2PA, and the conversation within the industry is picking up, which I think is great. Because when we first joined, it was like 30, 40 members, and now if you look at c2pa.org, you see that the list of members is this whole long page with camera manufacturers and encoding companies and everybody else in between joining. For us, it was a no-brainer because coming from a DRM side where you are protecting rights, this was the flip side of the coin where we're still protecting rights, but with DRM, you encrypt a piece of content and it stays stationary. With C2PA, Andy can create a piece of content, I can make changes to it, and then Barry can make changes to it, and Bruno can make changes to it, and the creativity process and everything else can continue while we still maintain the chain of provenance that you would need to know when you follow back and look at the content and say, yeah, I know what this says and I trust the source.
Very good. Barry, I'll sort of ask you the same thing. What is the emerging technology that you're thinking about for this year as it relates to Wowza that you think people need to pay a little more attention to?
I think, obviously the easy answer is AI, but I'm not going to say that initially. I think you had a really interesting blog post, Andy, that I kind of resonated with me. What I'm seeing is I think you're going to start to see a bunch of workloads being moved to the edge and more processing being done either near the consumer or near the ingest.
Sure.
To kind of streamline workflows. And I think there's a bunch of stuff you can do there to really optimize things. Certainly on the edge, you can optimize ad delivery. You can optimize what segments are being delivered to what person based on any given time, and kind of by doing it later, the later you can wait to make that decision, you're probably going to get a better experience for the users. Yeah. But it all ties back into data as well. Is like, how do we take this data that we're getting now? We've been having piles and piles of data, and I think we really haven't necessarily known exactly what to do with it yet. And that's maybe where AI can come in and help us make sense of some of that data and then feed into that new stuff where, hey, we can do this here instead of having to do it in one central location and try to this one-size-fits-all approach. And it's even going to play out into things like server-guided ad insertion and things like that, and with the ultimate goal being that, it's a better experience for the end user.
Yeah, I think totally agree. Obviously, you're just agreeing with me, so I'll agree back with you. But I think there's going to be a lot more just-in-time packaging of content for delivery because we want more personalized content, and you can't stage personalized content for everybody in the same way that we stage on a CDN now.
No, you're starting to see. Look how popular multi-view is when people start getting multi-view out there and things like that, and it's the more optionality you get, the harder it is to just have that dumb cache at the edge serving things. So I think it's a really interesting way to go and something that'd be fun to think about.
Yeah. Bruno, same thing for you. So what are you thinking about in terms of emerging tech that we need to keep our eye on?
Cannot mention AI, right?
Yeah. No AI, no metaverse, none of that.
I mean, but the cool thing is that it's not buzzword anymore. Like we are seeing it being practical use already. I believe that the agentic step, it's one very interesting one, especially for experience orchestration. Like seeing that we have a new subscriber or a new user, which experience do we enroll to them? And then having data being controlled by an agent that understand the steps in their experience, and then once they move to a certain step, you offer a different experience, and you go on that, not really only personalizing the experience, but also taking their experience where you wanted it to be.
So like, sort of customer journey at scale.
Yeah, in a way. Like, I mean, and also from a business perspective, like I want to increase my retention. It's more important. So you enroll an experience that will take users to retention. So you want to increase playtime, so you take another enrollment and so on. So having AI agents supporting that, connected to data sources like us or other providers, it's one of the things that I see most exciting for years, because one of the frustrations that data providers have is we are offering a lot of insights and so on, and then it's not being really used, it's not taken to the end user. So I believe that AI can fill this gap, and then we'll go to Blade Runner level of.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sort of sharing your perspectives. I wanted to open up to the broader audience now. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, and you can sort of say it from where you are, and I'll just repeat it for the microphone so that we can pick it up. Anything from the audience? Bhavesh, I think you've got something. Who do you want to grill first? All right, what do you got? Yeah, so the broader question was really around what is the customer or the consumer visible version of the SSL padlock in our browser for C2PA and provenance?
During the panel yesterday, I kind of showed a couple of examples of how we are doing C2PA right now and how that is visible within, if you're looking at it as if you're looking at a piece of content. Most of us have probably seen it on LinkedIn where there's an image with a little CR in the corner. And if you click on that, it tells you that it was created by, I think Adobe was the only option that LinkedIn was allowing at the moment. I know they're working on updating that list. But from a perspective of consumer, this is where you click on that image and or the CR, and you can see who the content was created by, if there was any changes, and all this other information. And to kind of expand on that, I genuinely hope that one of these days I can log into my or open my browser and say, only show me images with provenance, or only show me images with unbroken provenance, or what have you. But I think that if I could guess if that's ever going to happen, I would be a very rich person, because I'd be predicting the future. Because I would love for browsers and other large companies with a lot of reach to get behind this technology. And I know they are, but I'm not quite sure if people are taking an active stance on let's educate the consumer. And I don't know, at the top of you open your browser, have a little bar that says, if you see this image, here's what this means, here's what you're looking for. I don't know if we'll get there, because it feels like everybody's trying to own it, but also nobody's trying to own the technology. So a lot of the education of the end consumers needs to happen in our industry in general.
Got it. Thank you. Do you want to give one to Barry? Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole notion of being able to react to the data you get back, and we have various components in the change, but standards like CMCD and things like that are making that better, because we can actually make sense of the data that comes back, not just from our player, but from a different player. So certainly, if you combine that with being able to react on the edge, you can make better decisions, right? You may be able to change your encoding ladder, your bitrate ladder mid-flight. If nobody's watching 480p, why have 480p available? Or if somebody needs to remap a segment or whatever. Yeah, so you can make a lot of decisions based on that data. And I think previously that making real-time decisions on that massive amount of data is very hard. But I think applying some AI and some machine learning stuff at that level now, on the edge, you can actually make those decisions in real time where probably couldn't have done that, 5 years ago.
Very good. Any other questions? We do have a microphone available now, so just raise your hand and Phil Donahue will come over and help you. Any last questions for the room? we've got one more here in the front. Steve, do you want to come over?
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I was feeling bad.
Thanks for being here, Bhavesh.
Look, Bruno, I was the head of product for video QoE for Warner Brothers Discovery, so you're in line exactly with my target is right there. Looking at, and I'm following your journey. You've collected the data. You've started doing analytics on the data. And now you're understanding what the data is doing. How do you get to the point where, and what decisions do the content owners need to make so that now they're looking at an action engine, not just a metrics and analytics engine, to do an action to prevent an issue from happening? Where do you see that future going?
Yeah, that's a very good one. So, and there are many aspects, like from preventing issues, there are already. So, I don't want to talk about us, but we do have like a Sentinel, for instance, that it's an AI agent that is spotting issues and then understanding what to switch, for instance, and connect it to, we have a CDN balancer with active switching and so on, and they're connected, so to improve delivery, preload things and so on. So it's a kind of solution that, I mean, everyone can develop in-house as well. So, but it's a very nice solution that it's really present, and we see that impacting QoE, for instance, directly. It's great to see. For QoE, we are becoming at this point, I mean, it's not useless. Of course, it's very important and so on. But you have like a health insurance. You don't want things to break, but it's not as it used to be 15 years ago. But right now, the optimization of the monetization and the business and marketing, it's amazing what can be done if we establish a data-driven culture. So that's the part that we try to stimulate as well, like integrating departments, putting things together. We have done it on our side, but other providers as well, like to have integrated solutions where departments can really discuss things in using data and so on. Because one of the frustrations is that the technical people are very used to use data and look at the dashboards and use it to optimize, but business people not very much. So they have like rough numbers and let's see where we go. So taking that to the business side, I believe it's that culture, I mean, it's the key aspect, I believe. The capabilities are there, we know, and right now with AI, I believe that whomever it's not doing it, I mean, won't die, but will lose for sure good opportunities.
Very good. Thanks for that, Bhavesh. Okay, any last questions before we call it? We're just at time now. So thank you again to Bruno, Barry, and Olga. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on being Streaming Media Innovation winners, and thank you for being thought leaders in our space.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.